The Vexari Armada descended upon Earth like a steel storm, their ships blotting out the sun over every major city. Commander Kanat stood on the bridge of the ISS Defiance, humanity's last functioning warship, and watched the tactical display with grim fascination. 300 enemy vessels surrounded the planet, each one capable of glassing a continent. "They're hailing us again," Lieutenant Belichen reported from the communication station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Her voice remained steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Same demand. Unconditional surrender within the hour." Kanat's jaw tightened. The Vexari had conquered 47 civilizations in their march across the galaxy. Every species that resisted was annihilated. Every species that surrendered was enslaved. Humanity had studied their tactics for the 3 weeks since first contact, searching desperately for a third option. "Tell them we're considering their terms," Kanat said. "Buy us time." Bella's dark eyes met his in the reflection of her screen. They both knew there was no time left to buy. Earth's defense grid had fallen within the first day. The orbital stations were dust. The Defiance herself was a relic from the resource wars, held together by spite and improvisation. The Vexari hadn't expected resistance at all. They certainly hadn't expected humanity to fight back with such ferocity, but that was before they understood what made humans different. "Sir, the package is ready," Bella said quietly. Dr. Morrison confirms the payload is armed and stable. As stable as antimatter wrapped in a failing containment field can be, anyway. Kanat felt a cold smile cross his face. The package. Humanity's final message to the universe. The Vexari thought they understood warfare. They had refined it to a science over millennia. Overwhelming force, psychological warfare, strategic decimation. They broke their enemy's will before the first shot was fired. It had worked on every species they encountered. But humanity was already broken. Earth had nearly destroyed itself twice before the Vexari arrived. Nuclear fire had scorched the continents. Bioweapons had ravaged populations. Climate catastrophes had drowned coastal cities. Humanity had looked into the abyss of extinction and somehow impossibly pulled back. Not because they found peace, but because they learned to weaponize their own self-destructive nature. "Open a channel," Kanat ordered. "All frequencies. I want every Vexari ship to hear this." Bella's fingers flew. "Channel open, sir." Kanat stood straight, addressing the fleet that had come to conquer Earth. "This is Commander Kanat of the Terran Defense Force. You came here expecting us to break. You're right. We've been breaking for centuries. We've broken our planet, our societies, ourselves. We've stared into oblivion more times than we can count." He paused, letting the translation algorithms catch up. "But here's what you never understood about humanity. We don't fear extinction. We've embraced it. We've made peace with the end, and that makes us the most dangerous species you'll ever face." The Vexari commander's response crackled through the speakers, his translated voice dripping with contempt. Empty words from a dying species. "You have 30 minutes to surrender or we begin orbital bombardment." "Bella," Kanat said softly. "Initiate protocol Samson." She hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then her training took over. Protocol Samson initiated. All systems armed. The Defiance's engines roared to life, pushing the old warship toward the center of the Vexari formation. Alarms blared as enemy weapons locked on, but Kanat kept his ship steady. "You want to know humanity's secret?" Kanat broadcasted. "We learned something fighting ourselves that you never learned conquering others. When you have nothing left to lose, you become unstoppable." The Vexari opened fire. Energy beams tore through the Defiance's hull, ripping apart compartments, venting atmosphere into space. The ship shuddered and burned, but Kanat kept his course. Bella gripped her console as explosions rocked the bridge. Containment field at 20%. 15 seconds to critical failure. "The planet?" Kanat asked. "Evacuation shuttles are clear. They made it to the far side of the moon." Tears streamed down Bella's face, but her voice never wavered. "Earth is ready for whatever comes next." Kanat thought of the millions who had already died, the billions who would die if the Vexari won. He thought of humanity's long, bloody history, the wars, the genocides, the near extinctions. Every tragedy had taught them the same lesson. Survival demanded sacrifice. "We don't break easy," Kanat whispered. "And when we do break, we take everything with us." The Defiance reached the heart of the Vexari formation. The containment field collapsed. 27 antimatter warheads detonated simultaneously, each one harvested from Earth's abandoned weapons satellites. The explosion consumed the Defiance in an instant, then reached out with white-hot fury to embrace the surrounding fleet. 200 Vexari warships vanished in that first microsecond. The shockwave caught another 70 before they could activate their jump drives. The survivors fled, their reports already broadcasting back to the Vexari homeworld. Avoid humanity at all costs. The species that breaks itself is unbreakable. On the far side of the moon, the last survivors of Earth watched the explosion fade. They had lost their world, but they had bought something precious with that sacrifice. A future. The Vexari would never return, and in the darkness of space humanity would rebuild. They had broken first, and in breaking they had saved themselves. In memory of Commander Kanat and Lieutenant Bella Chen, whose sacrifice became legend across the stars,